Hi, I'd like to open the planning board meeting of Monday, April 14th, 2025 at 7 PM with a roll call. Dave Gavigan?
Bob Goslin.
Jonathan Barnett.
David Gleason.
Okay, thanks. Val, do we have anything to go over before we start?
Anything what?
Do we have anything to go over before we start the agenda?
I do not.
Okay. We have to wait another minute. No, we don't.
No.
701 site plan review, but it's not a public hearing, so we can start this right away. This is 211 and 213 Main Street, map 46, lot 100, Jones River Community Chapel. And there's somebody here to present. I'd like to take the podium, please. State your name and your address.
Good evening. I'm Joseph Goldberg. I'm the pastor of Jones River Community Chapel. My address, I live in Plymouth. Am I on?
The mics are on as far as we know.
Oh, sorry. My address, 36 South Meadow Road in Plymouth, Massachusetts, but I am the pastor of 211, 213 Main Street, Kingston. One of the reasons we're coming before you today is we've cleared out an area of our property that used to be housed barns for stables for horses and people who used to come to our church. So we have our ministry that we do on Sundays and Mondays have grown to the point where we need additional space. So we cleared out some of the overgrowth in that area, and our hopes is to add additional parking. Specifically for Monday night, we have a Monday night AA's group that meets there, and they're parking at the Beal House, they're parking across the street at the funeral home, and our neighbors, Mayflower, has been kind enough to let us park there. I took over the church about 2 years ago, and one of the things that the neighbors, or anything in permanent, like pavement, we were thinking like a reprocessed asphalt or gravel to put down to kind of keep with the aesthetics of the area, and then landscape the area so it all matches.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much where we're at right now.
Okay. Val, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure, I have some information to share if I can make this work today. Okay. It works on your screen. So this is the parking lot that we have. They're at Center Street and Main Street, and that's a picture from the assessor's office of the church as you're driving towards the center of town on Main Street. And this is kind of hard to see, but my cursor is over the back part, and that's where they cleared for, as he described, they took down some trees and some brush. The trees were probably 5 to 8 inch DBH in terms of size, so they've been there a while.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no notice to the neighbors or the town that they were going to do that work. It's less than 5,000 square feet.
Okay.
That's 100 years ago, there was a carriage house and barn back there, but it's been woods for quite a long time.
Yeah. As long as I've been alive.
Yeah.
As long as I've been alive, I don't remember a carriage house back there.
So this is the view. I'm going to start with this slide. This is the view of the clearing from the adjacent church, the Mayflower Congregational Church. So if you're standing in their parking lot looking away from their church towards this church, you can see that there's an earthen berm that was left around the perimeter that is being used to kind of keep the stormwater there right now. That's not ideal. And then looking at it from Center Street, you can see that there's no apron or anything protecting the dirt from tracking into the road, and there's a low spot. So, we definitely want to see something there that would improve what we've got, and whether it's reprocessed, recycled asphalt, or whether it's gravel, we need a drainage plan. And I've spoken with the Reverend about the need for an engineer to take a look at this, especially with the standing water, knowing that there's this is pretty loamy soil, so it's not sandy.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is we need to have some sort of a drainage design set up. We need to get rid of that earthen berm that's been left, and then decide how we want to maintain that stormwater on the site and maybe let it percolate in, right? So my other comments are, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the staff report, but they are protected from zoning to some extent because they're a church, and also because they've been there for at least 100 years. So they precede zoning, and they precede all of our regulations. But when you look at the other churches in the area, they've all got paved parking lots or gravel
Yeah.
that are, well maintained, and this is in the historic, not district, but there's a lot of historic homes here. So the other concern is that at least we meet the minimum standards for screening and landscaping around the parking lot. And my primary concern is the residential house immediately next to this. So behind the churches, there's a house, and there should be some sort of screen. It could be a fence and/or a hedge, or it could be a hedge. Again, I've talked with the Reverend about that, and my understanding is that he's been talking with the neighbor about plantings along that side to alleviate the view. And then on Center Street, the requirement in our off-street parking regulations is that they have a 10-foot landscape strip along the parking lot, so that it should be flower beds or some sort of landscaping rather than what we see, which is, it's an unfinished situation that we're in.
Yeah. Definitely, I could see the need that we want to get some engineering involved here to get this straightened out.
Yeah, so I've asked that we have a filing with stormwater calcs from an engineer with the landscaping shown that we could bring back informally before the board, or if you desire, it could be before staff. I know that the residents in the neighborhood were surprised by the land clearing and are here to comment, so there's quite a few, I think, residents that want to make some comments as well.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I certainly noticed, I drive that road every day, every Monday around 6 to 7 o'clock as I go to the town dump. So I noticed, like,
The abutters eye should be cleaned up, and there should be some kind of a natural buffer put in there, whatever they might be. But I do think you have to have it engineered and see what the soil conditions are there, and then from there, we can decide what's gonna go down for a base.
Yes.
That's a good start.
do we have any idea, like, how many cars on an average Monday are there, and how many cars would end up in this back cars on an average Monday are there, and how many cars would end up in this back parking lot? Like,
They're
how much
exempt.
is it going to alleviate the problem?
Well, no, we didn't get a plan that
Yeah.
shows the striping, because they're talking about the possibility of gravel.
Yeah.
So I don't have that
Yeah,
information.
I wasn't sure if the pastor did.
Yeah.
Well, I
I-
would think that if they have it engineered, even if it's gonna be gravel, he could show how many spaces could be on the plan.
Approximately.
Yeah, it'll
Yeah.
definitely help to alleviate the problem of
Yeah.
the on-street parking that takes place.
Are you guys like near capacity when you have your meetings? Like,
No, sir. I've had the building inspector to the building.
yeah,
We actually just did our inspection a couple of weeks ago. I met with the police chief and the fire chief. We all had a meeting in the building, and they said they rated us about 180. I wouldn't put 180 in the building, but on a Monday, we go around 120. So that's really where we're at on an average. As far as the parking and stuff concerned, we recognize that parking on Center Street was a hazard. That's why we worked hard to get those vehicles off Center Street.
yeah,
So this isn't so that we can add more people to the building. It's to alleviate, like, maybe getting some of the vehicles off Mayflower's property onto our property. So that's really what we're trying to do. We're not trying to add to the group or grow the group any further, other than just trying to organize the groups that we already have there presently.
But is there any control to say, like, let's say 60 more people started showing up, like, how do you like, how do you keep more people from coming? I guess that's the
Yeah.
question.
Well, this is where I have to work closely with the AA group.
Yeah.
Since last January, a little more than a year ago, I've been at every meeting, making sure that the capacity isn't reaching their limits.
Yeah.
Parking is being done in a better fashion than it has been in the past. The group leaders of the group work well with me on trying to make sure that we get everything off the roads. We put cones out to keep people out of certain areas. So we try to add some organization where it really wasn't there up until about 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago.
Okay.
So you certainly have a lot more people at the AA meeting than you do at your congregational meeting.
Yes, sir. Hopefully that changes. But yes, we presently just to give you a little bit of a overview of our church, we run between 15 to 20 people on a Sunday. Everything we do, we pay out of pocket. We don't have any loans on the property. We've been slowly redoing the building bits by bits. We just redid a whole children's area in our church. We're working on repairing the roof. We just had a roof put on a few years ago, cost us about $40,000. So everything we're doing as a small group out of pocket. The clearing of this, it's completely out of our pocket. It's cost us probably $3,000 to $5,000 to clear this little bit. And this is simply so that we can be more neighborly. I mean, we didn't clear this to make our neighbors angry. We cleared this to get the parking off of Center Street. That was one of their biggest concerns when I took over as the pastor. They was like, this is out of control. So I've tried to add some control to the chaos. Try to get people off Center Street. So if you drive down Center Street on a Monday night between 6 and 7, because it's only an hour a week, there's no cars on Center Street. We get them on the property. And this past winter, I think we had to do it once because we had a big snowstorm. But other than that, we try to get that street alleviated. The neighbors came to us and they said that they weren't very happy where the smoking section was. So we moved it to a whole different area. So the point I'm trying to make is what we're doing here will eventually benefit our church on a Sunday, but it's really to help alleviate the stress on the neighbors while they're there on a Monday night. We're not trying to aggravate them. We're not trying to make their life worse. We're trying to make their life easier while we're trying to help people. And I've told the neighbors this, and I'm telling you this, that if I didn't see fruit from this Monday night meeting, I would have killed it at its core and ended it right there on the spot. But I've gotten drunk drivers from getting back in their cars. I've saved somebody from trying to take their own life. I've had an 18-year-old kid for the last 4 years. His mom's been coming to our AA group, who made it to his 18th birthday where he didn't think she would make it. He called an ambulance for her overdosing on alcohol poisoning. And the point I'm trying to make is I'm not trying to dump all this news on you. I'm putting up with this aggravation and frustration to help meet the needs of our neighbors, but also seeing an impact in our community. To see somebody whose marriage is back together, to see someone who has a family obligation that's being met again, it's really why I'm putting up with this and why we got a small congregation of 15 to 20 people willing to invest into this Monday night group. So if you find folks tell us, hey, Joe, you got to put up this bushes, you got to do this landscaping, you got to do this engineering, we'll do it. We'll do it within our budget and in time to do that, but we're committing to getting it done and right so that it meets our neighbors' needs, it meets the town needs, and we can put something out there that you can be proud of when you drive by it, saying, yeah, that looks very good, I'm glad we did that, and we're making a difference in the community. Sorry, I didn't mean to just roll on.
Anything else?
I would just say that everything you're saying, the fruits of your labor is very, very noble. I mean, I applaud you for that. I think that the biggest thing in these parking lots that we see is standing water.
Yeah.
So I think some spot-on engineering would be very, very helpful, because when you drive by there, you don't want to see standing water. So the water has to drain, go somewhere nice, keep the parking lot dry, the plantings and everything that we're going to need, to help the neighbors have some sort of buffer, which you seem like you're completely open to that.
Absolutely.
So I'd say that in my mind, that is the most sensitive part of all this.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, our church has been blessed with a beautiful building that's been there for a very long time. Whatever we do, we want to make sure we complement it.
Very, very, very cool building.
Yeah, it
Yeah, I
is.
like it.
So, and if those of you haven't seen it, you got to come see it. She's
Yeah.
beautiful inside.
Yep.
I mean, the church has never had a real parking lot.
No.
It's always relied on on-street parking, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, anybody else? No? All right, does anybody want to speak to this from the community? Yeah, yes, sir. Just state your name and address at the mic, please.
Adam Sherman, 215 Main Street. Just have a couple of observations and comments. Having lived next to this chapel for over 40 years, I'm well aware of their parking needs. See it constantly. In fact, yesterday, in the parking area under consideration, there were 4 cars parked there for services. Through the various incarnations of the church building, I've rarely, if ever, seen a parking problem for religious activities. A number of years back, they were getting on special Sunday occasions. There were considerable parking on the streets for an hour. It's understandable, nobody was upset about it. That's what happens when you live next to a church. The activities of Monday night that referring to are not religious activities, however. And it seems to me that all of this is being considered for, again, a non-exempt activity. And I question that. I also question and have concerns that these trees were taken down without permission. In your agenda, it's saying extending the gravel parking lot. There is no gravel parking lot now. It's not an extension as presented. And I don't see the need for expanded parking for the church activities. It's pretty simple. We wouldn't be here tonight if it wasn't for being reported to the town about the trees. The gravel would already have been put down. We were told that was scheduled for a day or two after the building inspector was there. And it wasn't the parking on both sides of the Center Street. Our chief, Mark Douglas, was very concerned about that and put a stop. He's the one who put a stop to that because it was impossible to get emergency vehicles down the street. I don't see any great number of additional cars that would be accommodated by this. It had to be done before paving or gravel is done. That way we know it will be accomplished. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Val, did you have something to say?
I believe that Alcoholics Anonymous and other programs along that line are educational programs, and they are exempt.
They're exempt?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think the church is pretty wide latitude in certain areas, right?
It's an exempt use.
Yeah, yeah.
My turn?
Yes, please go to the podium.
Roseanne Pratt, 10 Center Street. And I've been a resident of Kingston for 53 years. I have lived at 10 Center Street for 50-plus years. And in my lifetime, and my husband's lifetime, who was a lifelong resident of Kingston, we have never seen parking as bad as it is on Monday nights. Why are they making a parking lot? Why, for 20 cars on Sunday? Okay. We have been threatened for 10 years that they will be making a parking lot there. I have frequently queried the building inspector, the police department, the fire department concerning these issues on the at the Jones River Chapel on Monday nights. The chapel has cleared the lot and left 2 dangerous trees up there. Ask me how I know about dangerous trees. My husband was number 2 man on the Kingston Tree Department for a few years and then became tree foreman. And he pointed out many times to me, the 2 trees that they left are terrible. And now they've dug up the roots, so what's going to happen to those trees? They're going to go down. I don't want them coming down on my yard. I don't want them coming down on the churchyard. About 2 months ago, they cleared that lot. They left the brush off to the side of the lot for over 2 months. This was a particularly dry summer, particularly dry. We live in a neighborhood composed of old wooden buildings. What would happen if that brush caught on fire? Does anybody know? Boom, the neighborhood's gone. I did attempt to notify the fire department about this problem. Roadblock again. We lost a green area. It was a sound buffer from the traffic on Main Street. It was stated that the chapel would be putting down gravel. I don't want gravel in my yard. I don't want to walk on Center Street and twist my ankle from the gravel. I see the mud coming off the parking lot now. Stands to reason the gravel will travel. If I go for a walk on Monday evening, I don't want to dodge cars on the sidewalk. I don't want to walk on Main Street. We all know there's no speed problem on Main Street. I especially don't want to see a pedestrian and auto accident. Unfortunately, years ago, there was one in front of the Congregational Church, and Gordon Pratt sent me out there to try to help them. I don't want to see that again. It took me months to get rid of that idea. I know there's a lot of ifs, but this isn't even half the problems that I have endured with this group on Monday nights. I don't want myself or my neighbors to be bullied and told we were unchristian. I have no problem with Christian activities, services, weddings, and small meetings, AA meetings. We all have friends and family that have been impacted by addiction. If the decision to allow this parking lot to continue, I want it done, not piecemeal. Get it done. It's a mess. I don't want to see another year of ugliness. And some of us will remember Joni Mitchell, and others will remember Counting Crows song, The Big Yellow Taxi. Remember that one?
Yep.
Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you want till it's gone? They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Now, the town planner suggested many things, and I approve. I like them a lot. I would like to know how couldn't get a fire truck or an ambulance down there.
Yeah.
And I'm done. Fix it.
I walk your neighborhood all the time, so I'm well aware of how narrow the road is, yeah.
Good evening, all. Susan Sherman, 215 Main Street. And before I start, I was just at Solstice, and I have regards for the board from Sue Boyer.
Oh, nice.
I'm reading this, and I have a packet for you. So let me read it so I don't get distracted here. I'm not opposing the presentation made by our town planner for the gravel parking lot. She did a great job. She set some good things in place. I will say that I'm sorry that it proceeded as it did. Removing all the trees, etc., without consulting the neighbors. We have always had a neighborhood, and people in that neighborhood, as you know, have lived there for 40, 50 years. Including the churches, would never take down trees to the lot line without discussion. with your neighbor. Thankfully, a call was made to the town, and the work was halted. Now, that's why we're here for your endorsement. I also will take this opportunity to put on the record that the venue is inappropriate for the Monday night activities. Cars are parking at the Beal House, Shepherd's, Mayflower, and both sides of Main Street, in excess of 90 vehicles, with so many crossing Main Street. Many of us remember 20 years ago. In fact, that was the cause of an accident with 2 Mayflower congregational members were killed because they were walking in between cars. AA is a well-known organization, one I support. It's a non-religious group. Therefore, I question where we are, a residential area, and this is a non-church event happening each Monday night, falls under the Devon Act rather than the town's bylaws. I give you 2 examples of this. Bingo at the Catholic Church, which it was a non-church event and it had to be discontinued. Also, Cherry Street, an NAAA meeting, which was parking on both sides of Cherry Street. That too had to be disbanded from that location. We rely on you, the town, to provide us with residents with safety. I hope there is some way a more appropriate venue can be found for this necessary parkings, with necessary parking, sprinklers, and etc., to safely accommodate this group. A personal note, I would never have a pool party during Sunday morning services. I live in a neighborhood with all churches. I wouldn't do it. We are simply asking the same. Love thy neighbor. I say this to you, Joe Goldberg, and to the Jones River Chapel. Once again, I, Adam, Roseanne, and our neighbors wish to extend to you with a basket. Here, I've got it. A basket of cookies. And let me read this so I don't get it wrong. Our wish for your success at Jones River Chapel, and our intentions not to malign Christian values or values of AA, but rather to embrace our neighborhood. No one entity has the right to adversely impact a neighborhood. Now, I will say, just in hearing what was said, that I appreciate what Val did, and I just want to mention the curbs. Those curbs are very old antique curbs, and I don't know if they can be redone so that they don't get lost. I think that would be an important part. And the cones. I feel like I've moved to a town that I don't even recognize anymore. Every Monday night, cones are out everywhere. They are picked up, but I again say, for 40 years we've lived there. Up until the last 8 years, we never had a problem. People parked. They were congregants. They parked on the side of the church down on Center Street. We never had a problem. What we had a problem with is when, unfortunately, and I will say it, AA came in and they don't care. They park on both sides. They park in front of my driveway. I can't get out. I mean, this has got to cease. I don't know how this plays into the planning board, but that's all I have to say. But I really do wish the Jones River Chapel will be successful as a chapel. I'm not so sure how I feel about AA. And you know that, Joe. I've said nothing I haven't told everyone. And thank you for your consideration. It's referencing why it's not, it is a non-church, and I don't think it comes under the Devon Act.
So for the sake of correction, it's the reference is the Dover Amendment, which is part of the state zoning. And it exempts educational uses, religious uses, and other similar uses so that there, and it comes from discrimination from neighborhoods with those uses being proposed in those neighborhoods. So the idea is that they're generally exempt from zoning, and that's why I mentioned the Dover Amendment. So we are walking on a fine line here. That we are not here to establish the use, we're here to look at the parking lot.
And yes, I do agree with the Dover Amendment. However, I don't think it applies because it is a non-church event.
Again, it's not our purview, and I don't encourage you to go there.
Yep.
I just wanted to clarify something. One of the reasons why we cleared this area out, and if some of this is caused on ignorance on my behalf, I apologize to you. It's simply because the neighbors had a concern with parking. I've worked really hard over the last year, almost year and a half, to keep parking off of Center Street, to be a more neighborly person. That's the whole purpose of this. It wasn't any I wasn't trying to deceive anybody, wasn't trying to be a bad neighbor. I simply cleared this area off to alleviate the parking, to be a better neighbor. And I deeply apologize to my neighbors if what I've done has caused them heartache, because that was not my intention in any way, shape, or form.
I mean, we do have a land clearing bylaw now, but
This
I'm
is
not sure
not, this
if it
doesn't
applies
trigger
here,
that because it's less than 5,000
yeah,
square feet.
exactly. I mean, I came
I
out
just
2
have a
weeks ago,
question.
and my neighbor cut like a whole bunch of
As a
trees
resident,
down,
not as a
right on
citizen
my
town
property
planner.
line. What was I gonna say? They're his trees. I couldn't do anything about it. I wasn't happy about it. He's gonna put up a fence, but, would've been nice to know, Okay.
Erin Benoit, 26 Jones River Drive, asking this not as assistant town planner, as a resident and lifelong Kingstonian. Just to be clear, if there were 120 people for Mass on Sunday, congregants, would that be a problem? And they were parked everywhere.
Everybody knows that it's Main Street. There are churches everywhere for 100.
We can't hear.
Yeah, you
Sorry,
got
Sue.
sorry.
I'm getting a notice from the booth.
Of course not. Of course not. If there were 120 cars at the Unitarian Church for a service, for a wedding, everybody would accept that. This is all non-church event. It's non-church event, and it's every Monday night.
Just like every Sunday, there would be a service in here.
But no,
All right.
not
Yeah.
necessarily.
Okay, Sue,
What?
thanks. We don't want to get into an argument here. Okay.
If I may, I just want to encourage the group that all of your remarks should be directed to the board
Yeah.
and not to individual speakers, please. Thank you.
My name's Peter Burke. I'm at 15 Center Street, directly across from the proposed parking lot. For the past 24 years, I've had a front row view of everything that goes on at that church. And I've seen it from a vibrant church in the beginning, 23, 22 years ago, where Sundays there'd be multiple services, cars would park on the grass, they'd park on the street, to the Brazilian community, maybe 10 years ago, they'd have services twice a week, sometimes on Saturday, they'd have a party out back. I look out my front window, I see the stained glass window in the church, I see whatever goes on in there, I enjoy it. I think it's good, I think it's good for the community. Center Street serves as, or has served as a overflow for funeral homes when there's a big funeral in town. Not a problem. Occasionally, things that go on in town, whether it's something on at the library or something at the town green, cars get parked on the side streets. When when AA came. My only, I guess, problem with the parking was they parked on both sides of the street. The street's not wide enough to handle that. Can they park on one side? Sure. It's a street. Town owns the street. They can park on it. I've never had a problem with that. I don't care what side they park on. Just park on one, not both. I've had parties where I've had cars parked down the street, all the way down. Things happen. I think if it was controlled a little better in the beginning, we probably wouldn't be where we are now. As far as I'm concerned, the church owns the land and they want to pave every inch of it. It's their right. You know, I'll have to look at it, but I have no control over it, just like if I wanted to pave my front lawn, my property. I'll do what I want. I personally, I think AA is good. They do good work. I think a little more control in the beginning with the parking probably would have had a different outcome here. My only issue is for the parking is if they do gravel, to have some type of an apron to keep the gravel from going in the street. Other than that, I mean, that's part of, I mean, I've been lucky as far as it's gone, where I could look out and see green grass and shrubs and trees and scrub brush and whatever else was growing back there, but I knew it wasn't going to last forever, because at some point in time, something was going to go in there that was going to have a lot of people. Again, you know, it could be pavement. It could be pavement all the way across to Mayflower, you know, and I can't stop that. And, you know, kind of they have the right to. So I think what they're trying to do now is trying to be accommodating, at least, which I give them a lot of credit for doing. You know, they're going to do the best they can. Can they get it all done in, you know, a week? No, it's going to take time. Things take time. You know, I spend time on my yard. I can't do everything in a weekend. And I try to be neighborly, and I try to stay out of stuff. And I try to mind my own business because I don't like people in my business. I just don't. But I think they have, for the most part, done a pretty good job taking care of the place. Painted, new roof. They keep the grass cut for the most part. You know, I mean, they've done a lot of things. They painted the fence a few years ago. So I don't have an issue with what they do over there. And I'm right, like if you look at the pictures, when you're looking across the parking lot, you're looking at where I'm living. I mean, it's like right there. I see it all. That's really all I get to say. And whether I'm making people happy by saying this or not, it's just my opinion. So, thanks for your time.
If I might.
Yep.
As I stated the other day when we were talking, that I did not think that this was a planning board issue. We have control over the site plan, which is what we're here to do. That being said, I don't know, and I'm just asking the pastor this, just something to think about, is if there's a possibility of splitting it up so that there's not so many people there at one night.
We actually, last summer, we broke it up into 3 different groups. We had a Saturday morning group, we had an early Monday group, and then a Monday night group. We can't force people to go to the others. Then this particular group, for some reason, sticks together. We did 2 other groups to kind of alleviate some of it, but it just, for some reason, people wanted to stick together on this one. It's not your, and I'm probably shooting myself in the foot for saying this, it's not your normal AA group where people just kind of come and they do their meeting and then they leave. These folks are connected. They connect outside of this. They'll meet 2-3 times a week at other locations. If somebody's not there on a Monday night, they're making a phone call. Where are you? They check on each other. Honestly, I know a lot of people say, well, this isn't an organization, a religious organization. Since I've started going in the last year and a half, they open in prayer and they close with the Lord's Prayer. I don't know what the definition of a religious organization is, but I'm seeing God's work on people. I'm seeing lives change. And I've told the neighbors this last year when I came to them and told them that we were going to cut down some of these trees. I spoke to Miss Pratt about it, and I said, I'll even let you pick the green bushes we put up, because she said her biggest concern, she didn't want to look at a parking lot. I said, if that's the case, I'll let you pick the bushes. And she said, yeah, I'll do that. So this was last year. We had conversations with the neighbors of what we wanted to clear out, what we wanted to do to alleviate parking. And I told them during this time that if I didn't see fruit, if I thought that this was just another meeting that was going through the motions, I'd cut it off at the vine. But I've seen lives changed. I've seen what happens. And some of these folks come now on Sunday mornings. And I'm just being honest with you.
All right, thank you. We just want to keep it to the parking lot if we can.
I'm going to say something about the parking lot.
Yeah,
Once again, Roseanne Pratt, 10 Center Street.
Yep.
Yes, they have approached me, like I said, for the last 10 years, they have said they're going to do it, they're going to do it, they're going to do it. Yes, Joe did say that he would put up trees or a buffer or something like that. I came home from my church one Sunday and saw 2 men cutting down trees, no notice whatsoever. I said to myself, Roseanne, go in the house, put your blinders on, just mind your own business. Go into the house, you hear the tree fall like that, and I heard a guy scream, hey, you almost hit me with the tree. I don't want to see this. I want somebody in there to look at these trees that they took down.
okay.
Through the chair, in fact, AA considers itself, and I'll read this, it's a common misconception.
Sue, we're not going to deal with the use. The use, if you have a problem with the use, you do have to go in front
You
of the
don't
select board.
have the authority. I agree, you
We
don't.
we don't have the authority to determine if that's an acceptable
Can you
use
tell me
or
who
not.
does have the authority?
If I could intercede here, this is not something where somebody has the authority to talk about the use because it's exempt. However, it sounds like you have a safety issue with respect to the parking and traffic issues. So I encourage you to try to set up a meeting as a neighborhood with the police and fire and with the Reverend to try to sort this out. But this is not something that this board can take up, and it's not something that the town is going to take up unless you're going to introduce a concern that's a civil matter related to the town's actions regarding this use.
Okay, so I think well, we probably need to get some more information here, right? We want to get an engineer
My
on board.
recommendation right now would be that the gravel apron be installed immediately for 25 feet from Center Street inwards
Mhm.
to keep additional dirt if people are driving in there off Center Street, that they sweep and clean up Center Street immediately, that within 2 weeks, they get an engineered plan to the town for review by police and fire for the parking lot, whether it's gravel or paved. And that'll be subject to review, and then to come back before the planning board. And that would have the, any information about lighting, any information about the condition of the trees, and would include resetting the curbing.
Yep. Can we
In
have
addition
those
to what I
trees
had.
that she was talking about too? Can someone
That's what I'm talking
look at
about.
that? Okay, all right.
Yep. So I'm adding those recommendations to the recommendations, but, you know, while it's exempt, we have jurisdiction over the parking, and I think it's really important that we deal with the parking lot being designed and built properly. The other issues that have been brought up tonight are not under the purview of this board.
I just have a question on Val.
You'd have to go to the podium.
I just want to understand this properly. So you're saying that there's nothing to be done by the town unless there's a civil action?
No, that's not what I said. I
Okay,
said
that's
I
what I'm
encourage
asking.
you to meet with the fire
Oh, okay.
and police and the Reverend
missed the
to try to
encourage.
sort out these issues.
Okay. I
I'm
stand
discouraging my board from engaging on the use because we have no purview over it, and I believe it's an exempt use.
So whether I agree with you or not, it doesn't matter, because I have no jurisdiction in that area. So that's what we're saying. So what we really want to do is talk about the safety and the parking. That's what we want to do. And if they, if they come back and, police and fire look at it and they say it's not going to meet the safety demands that they require, then, I don't know, we'll have to do something else.
No, we're not
So
looking
is the-
at, no, let me,
No? Okay. Val,
we are not
I'll
going to
note that.
ask police and fire to review the site plan
Yeah,
for safety. They're reviewing it under the purview of site plan for a parking lot that's to be constructed. This is a broader issue that
Yeah.
needs to be addressed by police, fire, and the neighborhood about whether or not there's adequate parking for the use,
Yeah.
regardless of its exempt status.
yeah.
And maybe there's something that could be worked out. If something can't be worked out, that's not under the purview of this board. I'm just strongly recommending that the neighborhood take this up with the selectmen, police, and fire to try to sort out a solution that they might be able to abide by. All the other churches use off-street and on-street parking. So it's a combination on Main Street that we have for everybody. It sounds like they have quite a few cars coming in for this particular event, just like other congregations would be having additional cars. And they're referring to comments from fire and police saying that there have been some issues in the past. So I encourage a more formal program be set up, but that's not something this board has any purview over. And the police and fire would not be reviewing the neighborhood traffic issue for the board.
That's in fact where I'm confused. I totally agree that you have no jurisdiction in many ways, but you're authorizing, the planning board will be authorizing a parking lot that is not substantial enough for the existing.
That's something that, so an applicant has the right to request
Right,
construction of a parking lot. They've done it without probable, the appropriate mannerism, but they're here now.
right.
They have the right to ask to build a parking lot, and it's our jurisdiction to review the parking lot to make sure that it's to adequate standards. Your issue sounds like it needs off-street parking.
Sounds like a what?
It needs off-street parking, and that it needs additional management issues that you need to take up with another entity,
Venue.
and I've stated that more than once.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we continue the site plan review, subject to the conditions that Val just put forward.
I'll second it.
Okay, second it.
Is
We're
it
gonna
how
motion.
long?
Huh?
2 weeks to come back with the engineered plan with the landscaping.
Is that a realistic timeframe? I'm not sure.
I don't know, maybe the Reverend could respond.
Okay.
It's been done without any notice, and I
Yeah.
think that we want to encourage that they
Yeah,
take this up rather quickly, put the apron in place immediately, and sweep the street.
agreed. I just wasn't sure if they'd be able to get an engineer in that timeframe. But,
Yeah, what you want us done immediately, we'll do right away. We'll get it done. You just lay it out, just because I'm not sure what the apron is, so forgive me for my ignorance on that. As far as the plan, the drawings are done, it all depends on expenses, because we won't move forward until we get you everything you tell us to. So that's my
We
word.
can't do anything more until you bring the engineered and landscaping plans to us.
Yes,
And I'm hoping that you do that post haste, since you know that you've done this without proper notice.
absolutely.
So my encouraging you to say 2 weeks is something that, it's like, not drop the ball.
Yeah.
They may come back to you and say that they need a month,
Okay,
but we'd like you to try to be as quick as possible. The gravel apron should be installed immediately, and I can help you with that by meeting you on site to describe it more carefully, but that would keep the dirt from tracking onto the street
okay.
and literally sweep the street, sweep the dirt back in to the site.
Yep, that we can do. So, yeah,
Right away.
you tell me when, I'll gladly meet you so we can get that taken care of for the apron. Tomorrow morning, I'll go meet with our engineers who did our plot plan and see if we can get that ball rolling right away and find out
Okay.
what the expense is.
Okay, back to the motion. We have a motion,
So,
With a second?
2 weeks,
2 weeks.
part of the
Yep.
motion.
Good motion, a second.
Yep.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So we'll reconvene in 2 weeks?
Well, we are not meeting until
Oh, okay.
May because town meeting.
Town meeting, okay.
So we.
But my hope is that we'll have the plan in
Yep.
advance, and that'll give me time to get it reviewed by police and fire so that we're not wasting time, you know?
So it'll be on the agenda for the next meeting, but we want the stuff prior to that.
Yes, we'd like it in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. We're leaving it because I've heard Val's very good presentation before.
Yeah. I'll leave it at the discretion of the board if you want to hear a 15-minute presentation tonight, or if you're, you know. I made it for the selectmen the other night. I think it's worth seeing. I've shown it to Tom.
What's it about?
It's about the corridor that, which is just 53 and Main Street.
3 Main Street? Oh, okay.
Not
Let's,
your,
Let's pause for a
not
minute
your
here,
Main
like,
Street.
let everybody clear out. Okay?
Thank you. I'm learning. I'm
Hey,
doing
guys,
better
could you
at
guys
this.
could you guys take the discussion outside, please? Thank you,
I might as well.
thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay, thank you, Val.
Thank you. I did this presentation for the selectmen. There's a jacket, yeah.
Good to listen to us.
Yeah.
Still meeting.
Thanks. Okay, so we're looking at the same presentation that was done before the selectmen. So for those viewers who've watched that, you can tune out, you've already seen this. A study was done of 3A and 53 from the Duxbury Town Line to the Plymouth Town Line, recently by the Old Colony Planning Council, who's our regional planning agency, and working in cooperation with the town. And I just wanted to start by looking back. The road is a historic road. It's been there a very long time. In fact, in 1795, it was on the map, and it was there from before then, because I think it was a trail that the Wampanoag Nation used, you know, along the coast.
Is that Potting's Way Road?
No. This is 106 and 27
Oh, okay.
today. But this is this is 53, and that's Rocky Nook there, if you get your bearings.
Yeah.
So it was known as the Great Road. By 1830, there's a drawing that I have here of Plymouth that was done showing what it was like in 1830, and it was all wooded except for what you can see kind of cleared along the coast. So the Pilgrims and all have been here for maybe 200 years at this point, but Plymouth it's still mostly coastal, and so was Kingston, and people still traveled by buckboard and horse. And this is a picture that's hanging here in Town Hall of some former residents. By 1845, Kingston was connected to Boston by the trains, and this is actually a view of Pottle Street, where the train station was. That is this striped line that you see, and the road corridor is coming up like it was on that last map. And you can see these little black dots along it. Those are houses. But you can see like Rocky Nook isn't built, it's actually a hill at that time. And the village is still sparsely built out. And this is in 1876, not long after that buckboard photo. This is a view of Kingston looking from the mouth of the Jones River back towards land. And you can see that it was forested in 1885, just like we saw in that picture from Plymouth, that it was mostly forest, hay fields, and you can also see some orchards. And I'm running my cursor along the corridor that we're talking about, or in other words, the road. And here at the mouth of the Jones, you can see a train heading out of town, and Jones River Landing is there. By the late 1800s and early 1900s, we had cars. This is a view of Summer Street. Around that time, I don't know when this view was taken, but you can see the old cars and the old dress.
Well, maybe you can tell us, does this look familiar?
All right. So with,
Yeah. thank you.
yeah,
Tom's not here.
We needed that, we needed that, Aaron.
Oh, we did.
Tom's not here, so you're low-hanging fruit, Bob.
that's right. So with these, with the car, you can see subdivisions starting to pop up and some new roads. And you can see that Town Hall's been built. And we have the cemetery that was established by 1903. So it's kind of interesting, you know, that's starting to take shape. And that road is still there, and it looks exactly the same. We've got Crescent, and it heads right up to Duxbury. This is a view that's got Mr. Bouchard's grandfather's house in the picture. This is Summer Street in 1927, and this is looking towards Town Center. And then came Route 3 in the 1950s and 60s. By 1950, it was connecting the South Shore to Cape Cod, and by 1960s, it connected all the way through to Boston. And that really changed the character of the area. As we all know, there was a building boom following that, and now we have a new road that's become the road to Boston instead of our great road. And with that, you can see we had a boom in the 1960s and 70s and right through to about 2010 of building in Kingston and population growth. And lately, it's leveled off to 7% for the last 20 years or so. We are not growing in terms of population. And in fact, recent demographic information tells us that about half of the population is 45 or older. So we've got a much older population than we used to have. Building is slowing. In the 1980s, especially the late 80s, this bar would be off the chart. This is about 80 units, and there were like 300 or 400 units being built in the 80s. This is 1990, and you can see that's about a third to a quarter of what was being built in the 80s. And then it keeps going down. So we have fewer and fewer new residential units being constructed on average. And this is on 5-year intervals, averages. And the same's happening with commercial building permits. It's dropping off, especially lately because of the water moratorium, but also because of the, we just don't have a lot of commercial growth. We're relatively built out. So now I want to look forward. Why do we do this? We look so we can plan for the future. We can plan and look at road, water, and sewer needs, or what planners call infrastructure, and also look at economic opportunities. One thing that we've started to do is put our signs up that say, "Welcome to Kingston."
They look nice.
Yeah, and change, you know, it's time for us to keep looking at how do we invest in our community so that we are thriving. And we need to do that because we can see that we're not, we don't have a lot of new growth refreshing our situation. So we need to look at that. This study that we did incorporated the master plan, the municipal vulnerability plan, the townwide transportation assessment that we did last year, and the recent update to the open space and recreation plan, among other things. And to make it simple, we've divided it up into 4 sections going north to south to talk about. In the north end, which is near Duxbury, we see that in 1903, this was all residential, and it was small lots. So it was very different than it looks today. Today, it's very commercial. There's 3 large shopping plazas, and when you drive through it, you get the sense that you're on a very big road. There's traffic lights, there's wide pavement, so it's very car-oriented. There's drive-throughs. In the master plan, we called for encouraging the reuse of existing buildings, new buildings close together and near the street line, and 3 stories maximum, with mixed-use development, meaning mixing commercial with residential. And that's a little challenging, because if we look at it, it's already built out with these shopping plazas. So this is something that we're looking to see in the future, perhaps, when these are not there anymore. So how do we wrap our heads around that? We also talked about infill, which means adding buildings within the parking lots and in between other buildings to make the sense feel closer to the street. And we talked about street landscaping design standards, or what I would call in planner speak, a streetscape. So the last thing I noticed in the master plan was that we looked to reconstruct exit 20 and the Tarkland 53 by CVS, that intersection in front of Big Y. So it's challenging to meet the goals of the master plan here, because it's a state road, it's not a local road, and it's mostly built out, so we have to keep our eye on it. Recently, we have had what I was talking about with infill, with the Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, the ATM in the Kingsbury Square Plaza, and the UPS that was built, the warehouse building that was built at the industrial park. We have a new apartment building under construction opposite the Stop and Shop intersection. And we have exit 20 scheduled for reconstruction, hopefully in 26, 27, 28 timeline. So it's moving a little bit because we're looking for some additional funding. And we're currently using your money, introducing that 53 Tarkland intersection into the TIP. And I'll show you those in a minute. We also picked up the Blackwater Conservation Area off of Winthrop Street. And we have a couple of vacant storefronts and empty buildings starting to show up in this part of town. This is the proposed reconstruction of exit 20, formerly exit 10. If people aren't sure where this is the town line between Kings. If you're driving away from Big Y and crossing the highway, instead of the kind of nothing, there'd be hopefully some roundabouts to control traffic and make it safer there. And believe it or not, we think we can solve the whole intersection at Tarkland and CVS and the intersection in front of Big Y as one large project as a roundabout. And it fits, and our engineers already met with all of the property owners, and they're supportive. So we're going to introduce this into the TIP, we hope, this spring, and apply for grant money to do the engineering design and see how lucky we are. What the study recommends is that we really keep an eye on these vacancies and what's affecting those, and also look at rezoning, mixed-use developments, talk to the plazas, and make sure that we keep our eye on what's happening there and see if we can encourage redevelopment that continues to help us thrive. So moving on, here's Town Center. Again, here's the cemetery, and there's Town Hall when it used to be on Green Street. And it was heavily developed back then, and it remains that way today. Many of the structures are still here. Today, it's very car-oriented. Your experience driving through it is more about the traffic signals and the street than it is the buildings and the landscaping. So we have similar concerns in terms of the look and feel of driving through the corridor. And I looked at the master plan, and it called for, in this area, increasing sewer capacity to encourage investment. So that's something that we've accomplished as a community. Again, streetscape or landscaping enhancements, introducing on-street parking, but I'll say again, it's a state road, so that's not really something that we have control over. But we also talked about constructing some off-street parking, and we talked about allowing mixed use at a moderate scale and really focusing on a walkable town center. Recent activities in the area include that Mass Highway is planning to put in better crosswalks all along this area in the coming year. We recently applied for and are waiting to hear any minute now whether we got the funding to reconstruct the pedestrian crosswalk at the Green Street, where the library is, and do some work on the sidewalks there. If we get that grant, I'm excited to hear that the Highway Department will be looking to reconstruct the sidewalk on the other side on Green Street. So it would be a really good bang for the buck if we're able to do that. We have new mixed use behind the post office. We have that parking space that everyone was so enamored with, but really trapped us in terms of traffic, has been taken away. We have the new brew pub, A3 Pizza. We have the new apartment building at 55 Summer. And we, Print Plaza, invested in their parking lot and did a makeover, which was a big improvement. Mixed use is now allowed. And staff is working really hard on Maple Street, the old fire station that's kind of falling down. It's used for storage, but there's water in the basement, like it's really in rough shape. We got grant money to do a phase 1 and phase 2 site assessment. What does that mean? We know it's polluted, so we're measuring how much pollution and what we would have to do to clean it up, and then we're going to apply for the money to do the cleanup this spring. And then hopefully it can be reused for low-density housing that's similar to what's there in the neighborhood. We'll have to decide how much of that land we have under our control, but definitely the fire station. We also, Conservation just received a design grant for dam removal on the other side of Maple Street, further down. So it's private property, but there's a dam there that's in bad shape. And the idea of taking the dam down is something that the property owner is favorable to, and it would help restore fish runs, and it would be really good for the stream and for water quality. We're also meeting with people about the culvert that's called Stony Brook. When Stony Brook runs underneath, it actually runs underneath one of the buildings on the, I don't know what I call it, the east side or the north side of 3A there. And you can't really see it when you're driving through, but it's a relatively small, very old culvert. And we want to make sure that we are talking with MassDOT about the sea level rise question when in the future we have these heavy rainstorms and water comes flowing down that stream. Already now it gets within a foot of the building, and we know it's a floodway. We want to make sure that we're doing what we can to prevent problems on 3A. So we're already talking with our regional planning agency about that and posing questions to people about how we can work together because looking at that and understanding how or what might need to happen to handle that culvert maybe needing to be resized and that it's under a building is a big project. And it would also impact our downtown center. So we want to really wrap our heads around that and see how that impacts infrastructure. And we have also applied for funding both from town meeting and other sources and to AARP for an accessible trail behind the senior center. The study recommends that we look at a town center revitalization plan, which would include streetscapes, mixed-use opportunities, off-street parking, walkability, the possibility of using the rail bed as a trail, and the flood storage capacity I was talking about a minute ago. Now we have the crossroads, which back in 1903 didn't exist. We didn't have the highway. Now, if you think about that area, the Charlie Horse, Duncan, we've got the pizza place, we've got Keegan's Creations, we've got Cancun's, we've got other KFC, Ordas, we've got lots of right off the highway restaurants there, and we need to start thinking of that as part of our community. It's got a lot of neighborhoods around it. It's a very walkable area, and it wasn't addressed in the master plan. Recent activities in the area include better crosswalks from MassDOT, the new Dunkin' Donuts Plaza building that was constructed. There's been some reinvestment by the private sector in some of the old houses along Main Street, which is good to see. Keegan's reused the Dunkin', Brothers reused the old Burger King. But we are seeing some vacant spaces in the strip plazas, some buildings that are getting overgrown, some buildings that are not being used. And we know that the hotel itself, which was a hotel, became transitory housing. That use, the transitory housing, will end this year. And so we've already put up a call to the owners to say, we need to talk about what's going to happen with this building after that use sunsets. And the study recommends that we do what I just described, possibly looking at some intersection improvements at Spring Street where the L-knife trucks come out. Again, that's working with the state. Sidewalk improvements if we can, and also to keep an eye on that former hotel site. The south end, so this is the last area, is Rocky Nook. And again, that whole area used to be called Rocky Nook. Now I think we think of the Nook as the piece that juts out, but correct me if I'm wrong.
My whole life, it's been like from the Howlands Lane Bridge.
Over, yeah. So it used to all be Rocky Nook. And think about that, that used to be where everybody, there were like big hotels and all these wooden structures for the people that came on the train to relax and have a holiday away from Boston. And then when the trains connected to the Cape and then we had Route 3, I think of Cape Cod as the new beach resort for the Bostonians. And we are now we have our road that isn't being used the way it used to be used. It used to be for hotels and restaurants and things on your way to the Cape. So we've got to really think about what this road means to us now. And what we've got is the Cobb and Drew building, which is literally falling down into the street. We have some dilapidated and empty lots. We have some structures that are residences that are also not in great shape. And once again, we need to really look carefully at where our future is going to be on this road. In the master plan, we talk about transitioning from an auto-oriented strip to more of a mixed use, again, combining commercial with residential, enhancing walkability. The possibility of connecting with Cordage Park along the rail trail is something that we're investigating. Encouraging redevelopment patterns near the street line, smaller scale mixed use, and improving the Howlands Lane and Crescent Street intersections. Once again, it's a state road, so we really need the state to step in. One of the things that we can do is do some of the preliminary engineering and engage with the state on design ideas so that they can introduce things into the TIP, which is where we might be able to get federal funding to help us with some of these intersections. It takes time and it takes an investment by the community to take that first step. Recent activities include, as I mentioned, some reinvestment by private sector in limited areas. If you think of like Cumberland's was a brownfield or a polluted site that got cleaned up and reconstructed, but that was a while ago. I've talked with the people that are using Cobb and Drew. They're not the owners. We don't know, either one of us, who the owner is, but finding the owner would be key. It is the key to finding the funding to clean up that site, redevelop that site. We have a grant that was submitted through our regional planning agency to look at the rail trail as a feasibility study. Again, the idea of connecting Cordage to Town Center to Marshfield. I'm not sure it can be done, but we're looking at it, and more crosswalks. The study recommends that we focus on Smeltbrook corridor improvements, look at reconstruction of Crescent Street and Howlands intersections, investigate that rail trail, consider rezoning the industrial district on Prospect Street to either residential or mixed use, because that's an industrial use in what's become a residential neighborhood, and that doesn't really fit the area anymore. Talk with the property owners of vacant, underutilized, and dilapidated properties, and try to encourage land assemblies and redevelopment, and look for zoning opportunities. So our common themes are looking at guidelines for future redevelopment of what we feel we see when we drive down the street, the buildings and the street landscape. We need to work hard as a community to communicate with Mass Highway and invest in that preliminary engineering so that we can get the conversation started. We need to continue to seek ways in our community to reinvest and improve on our roads, sidewalks, and bike and pedestrian movement. And we need to support reinvestment in residential and commercial properties however we can. That could mean zoning adapted to different areas of the corridor, like the 4 sections I just talked about, downtown revitalization planning, and exploring resources for lower income residences or struggling businesses to be able to reinvent and reinvest in their properties. I didn't give you the handout, so I'm going to skip that and ask if you have any questions.
What about the other side of town near Sacred Heart?
So,
Well, that wasn't studied as part of
yeah.
this. We just focused on
The corridor?
53 down
3A.
through Summer Street to Plymouth.
I want to say, it looks like an amazing amount of work that you've been putting in on this. I really am very intrigued about the idea of the roundabout at Big Y, Kingsbury Plaza. Yeah, that
would be amazing.
that plaza's been, well, that whole intersection's been just a mess for 40 years.
Yeah.
So that'd be amazing.
It would be nice, though, to see, as you stated, Val, the we have that like auto strip theme going down, to really get that to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the role of the planning board, if you will, to look at these design standards, start talking about, how do we accomplish that? We have a little bit of seed money. I can apply for grants, but first I want to sort of start talking with those different neighborhoods and with this board and look at the stuff we've already done. We've done a lot of work in the master plan where we drew all kinds of cross-sections and design standards, but we didn't take any action on it.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to start to work with our community on a more, not the whole corridor, but like section by section. Say, what do you guys want to see? What would fit here? And include the businesses in those conversations. It'll take time. And the goal is to just keep moving, keep steady. And, I'm only one, and I'm going to lose Aaron, and I'm not going to be able to do this by myself. So we're going to need to, team up with other boards, look for grant money to try to get some of this done. But I think it's important that we do it because I think that what we're seeing is some signs of disinvestment and some signs of neglect that we could really encourage the state to reinvest, and we could encourage our community to reinvest in this beautiful possibility that we have in front of us, instead of not, it's a lot to try to bite off as one big thing, but if we do it in small parts, I think it's more manageable.
Whoever's watching, I want to state that it's a bunch of crap that we're losing Aaron. Just putting it out there. Whoever's watching, for the record.
Well, I'm upset, but
Yeah.
I understand the town needs to make cuts, but it's unfortunate that it's in planning, because that makes it harder to plan.
It's just, you're doing so much. I mean, just what you just presented right there.
Yeah, I've had to watch this like 15, 20 times.
Yeah, Erin's ready to,
See that one? No.
if I make her watch it again, that's going to be the worst thing ever.
Is that a money issue, or is it a lack of work issue?
It's a money issue.
What is?
It's a money issue. The budget, But
It's a money issue, but also the generalization is, oh, the planning board's not busy, so the planner must not be busy.
yeah.
And the building department's not busy, so that's what I heard, is what the excuses are.
But it's not accurate.
No,
Just
Yeah.
because you're
Not
not
even
meeting that
close.
often doesn't mean I'm not working really hard.
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate that the perception is that because we don't have as much building going on, that the planner's not busy.
Well, I find it kind of ironic that they kind of talk out of both sides of their mouths when it comes to trying to maintain and have good people. But, okay, now we have good people, and now we're losing good people. So it makes absolutely no sense. I mean, I know the town, I guess I could go on and on. I won't, but you can hear me.
Sucks, that I feel like we're making a lot of good progress right now. And that's what
Yeah,
sucks,
and
is
it's
that
just gonna, it's gonna
once
get,
you sit
it's gonna
back
get bogged
enough,
down.
Then you're gonna be not able to do a lot of the stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
there's nothing the board can do about it.
Well, I had invited you to some of the meetings with FinCom and others, but no one came.
Sorry.
So at this point, it's town meeting.
Where else did they make cuts? Do you know?
This is it.
This is the only place they,
This is the only position that's
oh,
being cut.
okay. I know the school had a budget issue too, but it's separate kind of.
They sorted out their budget issues, so they won't have,
Everybody had to
Yeah.
tighten the purse strings,
Yeah, I know police was unhappy.
except some people
Yeah.
that raised.
Oh. Sucks.
Do you want us to do the minutes?
Yeah, let's get the minutes done.
So lovingly, everything.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of March 10th, 2025 as presented.
Okay, we got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? All those in favor?
All right,
Aye.
Okay,
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of March 24th, 2025 as presented.
I was not here for that, so.
hold on. Not present, so with two people, we can still, can we still vote on this with two people voting? 'Cause I was here and John was here, Bob was here. I think we need three? Okay, let's, unfortunately, let's
We gotta wait.
shell
That
it
one's
down.
up.
Okay. Before we end tonight, I definitely wanted to say something about, we lost Christine Haas this
I just heard that.
past week,
I
and
just
she
heard that.
worked as our admin for a bit here on the planning board, and her husband, John, also served on the, at least I knew he served on the zoning,
He's on the Board of Appeals.
the zoning board of appeals, and I was just sad to hear that, and I'm sorry. I'm sure John's probably not watching, but just wanted to make mention that we didn't, we feel bad about it, and sorry to hear. Anybody else have anything to say about it? I know, Jonathan, I think she was gone before you.
Yeah, she was a sweetheart. She worked in the
Yeah.
building department, too.
Yeah.
I bumped into the Farrells the other day at the post office on their way home from her
Funeral?
funeral.
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
Yeah. Anyway, just want to make a mention. Tom may have more to say when he comes to the meeting next time. Is there anything else? Anything else you guys want to talk about? No? Okay, it was a pretty good meeting. It's a little contentious. Okay, well, hopefully it'll go smoother next time. All right, we got a motion to adjourn, maybe?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we got a motion to adjourn in a second. There's no debating it, so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.